There's something deeply unsettling about waking up one morning and realizing you've been living someone else's life. Not literally, of course, but energetically, emotionally, spiritually. You look in the mirror and see a stranger wearing your face, carrying your name, but living according to rules you never consciously chose, following patterns that feel foreign, pursuing goals that don't actually excite you. And the strangest part? You can't remember when you stopped being you and started being this carefully constructed version of yourself. This isn't about having a bad day or feeling temporarily lost. This is about that creeping realization that somewhere along the way, you've been playing a character designed to be acceptable, to fit in, to meet expectations that you're not even sure are yours. And now that character feels like a prison, a heavy coat you can't take off, a script you're tired of reading. But here's what nobody tells you about this moment of recognition. It's not a crisis. It's an invitation to one of the most radical acts of freedom you'll ever experience. The conscious decision to let go of who you've been pretending to be and step into who you actually are. And when you do this, when you finally release your grip on the old version of yourself, reality doesn't just change, it shifts instantly. Most people spend their entire lives trying to improve the character they've been playing. They work on their flaws, develop new skills, change their habits, all while staying fundamentally the same person. But what if the person you're trying to improve isn't even you? What if all that effort is just making you better at being someone you were never meant to be? Think about it. How much energy do you spend trying to be more confident, more successful, more likable, more productive? How much time do you invest in fixing what you think is broken about yourself? But what if nothing is broken? What if you're just trying to force yourself into a mold that was never designed for you? The old you, the one you've been carrying around like baggage, is a collection of responses to a world that demanded you be smaller, quieter, more predictable. It's the version of yourself that learned to smile when you wanted to scream, to agree when you wanted to challenge, to shrink when you wanted to expand. And over time, this adaptive self became so familiar that you forgot it was just a costume. You forgot that underneath all those layers of conditioning, all those learned behaviors, all those protective mechanisms, there's someone else entirely. Someone who doesn't need to be fixed or improved or optimized. Someone who simply needs to be uncovered. And the moment you stop trying to perfect the old you and start releasing it instead, everything changes. This isn't about self-improvement. This is about self-liberation. And there's a profound difference between the two. Self-improvement assumes you're fundamentally lacking something. Self-liberation recognizes that you're fundamentally whole, but you've been covered up by years of trying to be what others needed you to be. The old you is tired. You can feel it, can't you? That exhaustion that comes from constantly monitoring yourself, adjusting yourself, performing yourself. It's like being an actor who's been in the same play for so long that you've forgotten there's a world outside the theater, and the role has become so automatic that you don't even realize you're still on stage. But here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you decide to step off that stage, to stop playing that character, to let go of who you've been, you don't become less. You become more authentic, more alive, more aligned with the natural flow of your own energy. And when you're operating from this place of authenticity, when you're no longer fighting against your own nature, reality responds differently. It's like you've been swimming upstream your entire life, and suddenly you turn around and discover the current. Everything that felt like struggle becomes effortless. Opportunities that seemed impossible start appearing. People who resonate with your true frequency begin showing up. Doors that were closed to the old you swing wide open for the real you. This isn't magical thinking. This is energetic reality. When you stop broadcasting the frequency of someone who's trying to be someone else, You start broadcasting the frequency of someone who belongs exactly where they are, and the world responds to authenticity in ways it never responds to performance. But let's be honest about what this actually requires. Letting go of the old you isn't comfortable. It's not a gentle, gradual process of self-discovery. It's more like shedding skin. There's a moment of vulnerability, of rawness, where you're no longer who you were, but not yet fully who you're becoming. And in that space, everything you thought you knew about yourself gets questioned. The old you had certainties. It knew how to behave in social situations, how to handle criticism, how to navigate relationships. It had strategies and defenses and ways of being that felt solid, even if they weren't satisfying. And when you let that version of yourself go, you temporarily lose those certainties. You enter a space of not knowing, of having to discover your responses in real time, rather than falling back on old patterns. This is where most people turn back. They get scared by the unfamiliarity of their own authenticity. They miss the predictability of their old limitations. They convince themselves that the cage they've been living in is actually safety, not confinement. And they go back to being the person they've always been, telling themselves that change is too risky, too uncertain, too overwhelming. But what if the uncertainty isn't a problem to be solved? What if it's a doorway to be walked through? What if the discomfort of not knowing who you are is actually the birthplace of discovering who you've always been? The old you was built on shoulds and supposed tos. It was constructed from other people's expectations, societal norms, family patterns, cultural programming. It was never actually yours. It was a composite of everyone else's needs and fears and projections. And while it may have served a purpose, while it may have kept you safe or acceptable or functional, it was never designed to make you happy. The real you, the one waiting beneath all those layers, doesn't operate from shoulds. It operates from a deeper knowing, an internal compass that doesn't need external validation to know which direction to go. It doesn't need permission to exist or approval to express itself. It doesn't need to be understood by everyone or accepted by anyone other than you. And here's what's extraordinary about this authentic self. It's not something you need to create or develop or work toward. It's something you need to uncover. It's already there, already whole, already perfect, exactly as it is. It's been waiting patiently while you tried to become someone else, like a song that knows its own melody, even when it's being played in the wrong key. The shift happens the moment you stop trying to improve the old you and start trusting the real you. The moment you stop asking, how can I be better? And start asking, how can I be more myself? The moment you stop trying to fix what you think is broken and start embracing what's already whole. This is where reality begins to shift. Not because you've changed yourself, but because you've stopped pretending to be someone else. And when you're no longer spending energy maintaining a false identity, that energy becomes available for creating the life you actually want. When you're no longer fighting against your own nature, you can finally work with it. The old you was exhausted because it was constantly swimming against the current of who you really are. The real you moves with the flow of your authentic energy, and that flow has a power that the old you could never access. It's the power of alignment, of being in harmony with your deepest truth, rather than in conflict with it. And when you finally stop resisting this flow, when you finally let go of the old you completely, something miraculous happens. The world stops feeling like something you have to conquer and starts feeling like something you get to participate in. Relationships stop feeling like performances and start feeling like genuine connections. Work stops feeling like obligation and starts feeling like expression. Life stops feeling like a problem to be solved and starts feeling like an experience to be lived. This isn't about becoming someone new. This is about remembering who you've always been underneath all the conditioning, all the adaptation, all the careful construction of a self that was designed to survive rather than thrive. And the moment you remember, The moment you let that authentic self emerge, reality reorganizes itself around your truth. People will notice the change immediately, not because you're trying to be different, but because you've stopped trying to be the same. There's something unmistakable about someone who's no longer pretending. They move differently, speak differently, exist differently in the world. They're not performing authenticity, they're simply being authentic. And that energy is magnetic in ways that performance never could be. The old you was always looking for validation, always seeking proof that you were acceptable, always trying to earn your place in the world. But the real you doesn't need to earn anything. It belongs here simply by existing. It doesn't need to prove its worth or justify its presence. It doesn't need to be more or less or different. It just needs to be. And here's the part that will surprise you. When you stop trying to be who you think you should be and start being who you actually are, you don't become selfish or irresponsible or chaotic. You become more genuinely caring, more naturally responsible, more creatively organized, because you're no longer operating from fear or obligation. You're operating from love, from joy, from the pure pleasure of being alive in your own skin. The old you was motivated by avoiding pain, by preventing rejection, by maintaining control. The real you is motivated by moving toward what feels alive, what feels true, what feels like home. And when you're moving towards something, rather than away from something, your entire relationship with reality changes. You stop being defensive and start being creative. You stop being reactive and start being responsive. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a conscious participant in your life. This shift doesn't happen gradually. It happens in an instant. The moment you decide to stop being who you've been and start being who you are, reality shifts to match that decision. Not because the world changes, but because you stop filtering the world through the lens of someone you're not. The old you saw limitations everywhere because it was living inside a limitation. The real you sees possibilities everywhere because it's no longer constrained by the false boundaries of who you thought you had to be. The old you was always asking, what if I'm not enough? The real you knows that you're already enough, have always been enough, could never be anything other than enough. And once you truly understand this, once you feel it in your bones, rather than just thinking it with your mind, you can never go back to being the old you. Not because you're not allowed to, but because you no longer want to. Why would you choose to live in a smaller version of yourself when you remember how it feels to be whole? The invitation is always there, waiting for you to accept it. The invitation to drop the mask, to stop the performance, to let go of who you've been pretending to be and step into who you actually are. And the moment you accept that invitation, the moment you choose authenticity over acceptability, truth over safety, your real self over your adapted self, reality doesn't just change. It becomes what it was always meant to be. A reflection of your deepest truth, a canvas for your most authentic expression, a playground for the real you to finally come out and play. The old you was a beautiful attempt to survive in a world that seemed to demand conformity. But survival is no longer enough. Not when you remember what it feels like to thrive. Not when you discover the incredible lightness of being exactly who you are. Not when you realize that the person you've been searching for your entire life has been waiting inside you all along. So let go. Let go of who you've been. Let go of who you think you should be. Let go of the old you completely, and watch as reality shifts instantly to welcome the real you home.